Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Beyond Breakfast. We are in the middle of Rav Dessler's article on Hanukkah. In the last couple of days, we've been speaking about these two ideas. One is that in the spiritual domain is above and beyond anything that we can comprehend in the physical space, and that part of our mission is to recognize that there's limitations to our own physical selves. We have a subconscious that wants things that are sometimes opposing our conscious mind, and so on and so forth. We went through the machloket between Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai as to whether or not it's better for man to be created or not. And one of the interesting, facets that Rav Dessler breaks down is the idea that according to Beit Hillel, he says, we're here to do what we can to overcome our yetzer, and we could get there with God's help. And Beit Shammai's opinion is, if we have to get there with God's help, then we didn't earn it, and therefore it's not ours. And therefore it's better for man not to have been created. That's where the debate is, which I think is a very interesting hara'ah. Because at the end of the day, what Rav Dessler is saying is that you have to do the work that is within your reach, and when you are able to do the work that is within your reach, God will give you access to things that are beyond our reach, right?
It's like in a pedal assist bicycle, you have to pedal a little bit,
and then the assist kicks in 100%. So, which is interesting because on the one hand, while we understand that the core of what Judaism wants from us, it wants us to have ownership of our identity, right? We don't want a system where you have AI powering everything that you're doing. We want you to be an independent thinker, critical thinker who does things on their own, but at the same time we recognize that we're hopeless without God because of the condition that we're in. So which one is it? Are we here to fight a fight that we can never win? What are we meant to do? And I think what Rav Dessler is trying to get out is that at the end of the day, we have to do whatever we can to use every aspect of our being to get to the point where God does the rest. That's where we're getting at. Of course, there's no ability to be animated. There's no ability to speak, to walk and talk, to see, to hear, to think without God's assistance. It's all God. But so the only thing that you and I can control is that little effort that gives the power to overcome the circumstance that we're in. Anyway, so he said this is where Rav Dessler continues. He says there seems to be no prospect of conquering the Yetzer Hara, right? But that's just the point. The human being is perverse. The very realization that there's no way out elicits all of his reserve strengths, and this is the power that, with heavenly aid, crushes all obstacles. Meaning, when you are stuck against the wall and there's no way out, that is what makes human greatness great. We have to have faith that God gives the task of such immense difficulty. Then the key to success must lie in the difficulty itself. The feeling of there's no way out is fundamental of succeeding in the service of God. And I've definitely have felt that way very much so since October 7th. I feel like as Jews, we always felt like America, we had our back, we always have a place to go back to, and so on and so forth. I guess, on a subconscious level, you're like fooled into believing that. But at the end of the day, you're seeing right now that the world is changing, and even this great country, which had such great values and was so good to Jews for so long, could instantly flip like that. At the end of the day, Hashem puts us into a corner because He wants us to grow. I heard this idea being shared by a guy named Reuven Yaron, who said something very profound. He said that in his opinion, he says that it wasn't Rabbi, it was Reuven Pinchasi. He said that in his opinion, this generation is greater than the generation of Mashiach. And he brings a whole bunch of reasons, and one of the reasons, which is a very simple one, he's like, the Jews of Mitzrayim were only in Galut for 400 years. Right? The Jews that were in Galut post Beit Rishon were only in Galut for 70 years. So this is the first time in Jewish history where you have a group of people that are in Galut for over 2,000 years. And we know that God gives you the ability to overcome the circumstances based on the challenge. So you are in a unique situation where you have a special power to be here at this time in history that no other generation had, which I would argue means your neshama, our neshamot, are greater than the neshama that came before us. We're not saying we're greater human beings, but we're greater because we have the power of withstanding the challenge of being so far removed, so much safek, so much doubt, and yet here we are telling the story. He says, our father Avraham, before he had been called by God, had battled against 10 generations accumulation of idolatry and evil doing, and enjoyed some success in showing people about faith in one God. Now he was faced with the stark alternative: recant or be burned to death. His reasons must have told him there's no way out. If I would be killed now, all of his work would have been wasted. Yet he accepted the challenge and marched forward to a miracle. Imagine Israel at the Red Sea with the Egyptian army advancing on a broad front, the sea at their backs, nowhere to turn. There was literally no way out, but the message came. Why do you cry out to me? Tell the Israelites to advance into the sea. No way out is a challenge to attempt the impossible. And when the challenge is accepted, the sea splits, right? No one ever believed that any army could fight a four-front war, a three-front war, and somehow Israel did it. They're fighting with Hamas in the south, fighting with Hamas in the west, fighting with Hezbollah in the north, fighting with Iran further out, fighting with the Houthis, and Israel crushed them. And they said it's impossible. We don't study the wars of Israel because we know it makes no sense. No one could do that. Israel is warned that one day a prophet may arise who will try to seduce them from their allegiance of God and His Torah. The prophet might support his words with veritable miracles. Surely, this will be a no way out situation. He will obviously be a man of power. How will we deny the validity of his words? But the Torah tells us to take no notice of his miracles. On the contrary, we are instructed to put him to death for trying to seduce us to idolatry. Our love of God must be stronger than any apparent proofs of authority they or he may provide. The no way out situation must be broken open by the strength of our love for God. As we know from everyday experiences, the love is immune to all logical persuasion. And what about man's miracles? The power was given to him by God to test our love. Right? Everything that we go through, the challenges are here because Hashem is always testing us. The Gemara says that it makes a very interesting comparison between salt and suffering. Did you ever hear this Gemara? The Gemara says that salt is like suffering. Why? Because salt brings out the flavors in the meat. Right? Salt's this coarse thing. You put in your eye, it stings. Too much of it on your tongue is uncomfortable. But you put the right amount on meat and it brings out all the best flavors. And the Gemara says suffering is the same way. The right amount of suffering, the right amount of pressure, the right amount of counterforce brings a person to become a greater human being. So he says that the secret of Hanukkah is this. This is the secret of the Chashmonaim victory. Any reasonable person could see that there was no chance at all for a handful of priests, a bunch of nerds, who are running around in the temple, making offerings and libations. These guys were not going to fight the Greek chiseled army who was trained since they're 5 years old to kill and go to combat. There's no way, b'derech hateva, naturally, that these people should win that war, right? There's no way they could fight it. As a matter of fact, I once, as a thought experiment, said, look, if we could go back into a time machine and we could bring a CNN crew with us or a Fox News crew with us, and to interview the Maccabees and ask them, what's going through your brain right now? What are you thinking? You're really going to wage a war against the Greeks? The Greeks went through Persia like a hot butter through knife. Like a hot knife through butter. So there's no way this small little puny Jewish army has any chance. But yet they attempt to do the impossible. And if you want to understand Jewish history, that's what we are. We're a small group of people, less than 15 million people on the planet. If you think about it, there are 2 billion Muslims, 1.4 billion Christians today. Judaism is 3,300 years old. Islam is 1,600 years old. Christianity is 2,000 years old. We've been around for a long time. Our numbers should be in the billions. There should be billions of Jews on the planet. More than 2 billion. Why don't we have it? Because Hashem says very clearly, we're going to be a nation small, few in numbers.
It's not the quality. The quantity.
It's the quality, 100%. And that's what Hashem wants. He puts us through a pressure cooker, right? So that He could bring out the beautiful facets and the beautiful gem that's in each of us. This is what we say, no pressure, no diamond. No challenge, no greatness. And the miracle of the oil lasting for 8 days teaches us that if we do what we must do against all odds, right, success will come from a higher world. The world symbolized by 8, the world outside of nature, right? And this is true both of the physical and the spiritual challenges. Jews are renowned for their obstinacy. We are a stiff-necked people. We are also the boldest of the nations. That's the Gemara and Beit Shammai. Boldness is the cause for holiness, and of holiness is the secret to success in our service of God. When we have that level of commitment, Bezrat Hashem, you and I will see those miracles happening very soon. Have an amazing day and a Shabbat Shalom, everybody.